Hello everyone, it's James from DivyneCrochet. Today I'll be going through the absolute basics of crochet, what you need to know just to start a project, so the bare minimum. Also, I'll be going through the bare minimum that you need to buy to start crocheting. This video is definitely for you if you want to start crocheting but you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money and you just want the bare basics just to try it out. See if it's your thing. There's nothing worse than starting a new hobby. You realise you hate it, but you've also realised that you spent maybe 50, £100 on it, where it's just definitely not needed. So in this video, I'll be going through how to start crocheting, so what kind of materials you'll need, and then we'll go on to learning how to hold our hook and how to hold our yarn before I then teach you a few very basic crochet stitches. I'm planning to make this a series, so what will happen is this is the very first level of kind of what you need to know, and then from there we can build our knowledge. So I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. I've also got other social medias that will be linked down below. So without further ado, we'll get on with the video. Either from your local yarn shop or a shop online, you want to purchase 100 grams of chunky yarn. This is going to be the easiest to learn with as it will create bigger stitches, and this yarn is 100% acrylic. On the back of your yarn, it will show you a hook size guide. In this case, it's asking us to use a 6mm hook. So in this tutorial and with this yarn, you will need a 6mm hook as well. So you can purchase these just by themselves, which I would recommend for beginners. And if you end up enjoying crochet, maybe you can buy a pack of multiple sizes. And you will also want to have a pair of scissors to cut the yarn, which you should just have around your house. And then you will also need a darning needle, which is just a normal sewing needle with a thicker eye, which will make threading the needle a lot easier with this thicker yarn. So I filmed the start of the tutorial with this dark grey yarn, but as a beginner it's a lot easier to learn with a light coloured yarn, so I changed and refilmed this later on. So as a beginner you want to avoid blacks, dark browns and dark greys. This is because you won't be able to see your stitches as well, which makes learning a lot harder. So something like this light green is going to be a lot easier to work with. So first I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way to make a slip knot. So you want to hold the long length of your yarn in your left hand and stick out your index finger. Now taking this short length, you want to put it below this index finger and round towards you, and then I just hold on to the short length before grabbing that long length of yarn and then putting it around your index finger away from you. So effectively you've just made this X with the short side of your yarn being underneath that long side, and you should have 2 loops on your finger. You want to get that first loop and pull it over that second loop, and now you can tighten this knot with that short end. And once you've done that, you want to get your hook, insert it into that loop, and with the long length of yarn you can pull this and that will tighten your loop. You want this loop to be quite snug to the hook, but you still want it to be able to move around. Now when it comes to holding your hook, I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can hold your hook, but really this just comes down to you just need to find what's most comfortable for you. For example, I like holding my hook like this with my index finger, my thumb, and I hold my yarn with my other fingers. Now when it comes to your left hand, what I do is I just stick my middle finger up and then I put my yarn over my index and my ring finger. In crochet we do this to control what we call tension, but at this point you just want to make sure that the yarn feels comfortable moving through your fingers and it's not getting stuck, so just play around with this grip. Once you feel comfortable with holding your hook and holding your yarn, we can learn how to chain stitch. So we're going to get our yarn around the back, over our hook and towards us, and we'll get that yarn underneath that kind of pointy bit of our hook to pull it through our slip knot, and this should create like a little V. And we're just going to repeat this where we get that yarn, we wrap it around the top back to front before pulling it through, and now we have 2 stitches. So each one of those V's counts as a stitch, and you can either carry on and just do a bunch of these till you're happy, or you can do 10 stitches and start a practice swatch of single crochet with me. So you want to practice this action 10 times, and that's going to be how many stitches wide your project is going to be. So as you can see, I made these 10 stitches and they kind of look like braids, they look like plaits, and I've done those 10, but I have to add another one, and I'll show you why here. So we're always going to work from right to left when it comes to crochet. So I'm showing you here right to left. So we're going to go back across this length. And this is where we're ready to start adding our single crochets. So the loop on our hook comes from this V here. So we're not going to work into this V, we're actually going to skip that and work into the second one. So the V, there's going to be a top and a bottom, and you want to insert just into that top line. So as you're inserting your hook, on top of your hook there should just be one strand of yarn. So as you can see, I put it through and I'm just adding one strand of yarn. So I yarn over and I'm actually going to pull this through the hole that I just put my hook in. So now I should have two before yarning over again and pulling through them both. So again, I insert my hook, I pull through a loop so I'm no longer in that hole anymore. I'm then going to take my yarn over the same way that you did while you were chaining, and then pull through 2 stitches. So just before that stitch is completed, you should have 3 loops just like that on your stitch before pulling through those 2. And you want to do 1 stitch in each one of those V's. So if you remember, we did those 10 chains before adding that 1 chain, and then we turned our work, we skipped that 1 chain, so we have 10 spaces to do our single crochet. So in total you should have 10 single crochets, and your plait side of your chain should always be facing you. If you somehow end up working on the other side, you know that maybe it got twisted as you were working across it. So you want to finish those 10 single crochets, and as I said before, we only crochet from right to left. So to continue onto our next row, how we're going to do this is we're going to turn our crochet as if we're reading a book, or specifically I should say English book, because obviously not every language reads in the same direction as the English language. And now we have these beautiful little, I don't know, I kind of want to call them polos, but they're kind of like donuts. They just look like little circles with holes in the middle. Now we're going to work into these stitches. So the hole nearest us is where we're going to insert our hook. So we insert our hook, and that V, that kind of like plait pattern is going to be on top of our hook. We're going to yarn over, you're going to pull that through, and then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So the action is exactly the same. The only thing that changes from the row before to this row is we're putting our hook through a hole where we will have that V on top, rather than inserting our hook into the top side of that plait. And as I mentioned earlier, I would count your stitches, so make sure you do your 10 single crochets, and on that 10th one, as I say, make sure that when you insert your hook, you have that V on top. This stitch can sometimes get a bit twisted, so sometimes it is quite hard to see, but you will get the hang of this. And this row that we just learned, we will just repeat over and over again. So we're going to insert our hook into that first hole next to our hook, and then we will do our 10 single crochets going down our row, and once we get to the end we will turn our project. Once you're happy with these stitches and you feel comfortable doing them, we can move on to doing this project, which utilizes all of the stitches we learn, but we're also going to learn how to sew. And this is going to be a nice pouch that you can keep all of your utensils for crochet in. So we're going to start by chaining a total of 20 chains, and then we're going to add that extra one as a turning chain before then going back into our work, and we're going to insert our hook into that 20th chain before starting our single crochets. And for this project you want to do a total of 20 single crochets in each row, and you want to do a total of 20 rows of single crochet. So that's going to be 1 chain row and 20 rows of single crochet. Once you do your final single crochet, I'll show you how to finish off your project. So we want to leave a long length of yarn, as for this pouch we're going to use this length to sew together the sides and the bottom of our pouch. Once we have done that, we're going to yarn over and pull that through before pulling that long length of yarn and tightening that knot. And now we're going to use that to sew down this side, the long length, and then the bottom to create a nice little pouch. So we're going to start by threading our needle, and what we're going to do is, to be fair, as a beginner you could just sew down the sides of your bag to make a nice little pouch, turn it inside out and it'll be fine. But to make our sides a little bit neater, I'm going to line up each stitch together. So this hole here, where our first single crochet was put into, so this is technically like the two chains, the two loops of the chains that you didn't go through when you first did your single crochet. You're going to go through them and then through that first single crochet on your last row. So as you can see, I'm just lining these up one by one. This is definitely something you can build up to if you're not ready to spend this much time kind of, focusing on just sewing. You can just sew down the length, and once you've gone all the way down the sides and all the way across the bottom, you want to create a few knots, and then we're going to sew in our ends. So I've done one already, but as you can see I have this loose end, so I'm putting that through the eye of my needle, and with my needle I'm just going through kind of the surface of any stitches near it. So effectively you're just kind of like sewing in this end so you can cut it short and it's not going to unravel. So once you've done this, you kind of stretch it out a little bit and you can cut your yarn. And as I say, this isn't necessarily like an exact science, you just want to sew this end in a few different ways. And as I say, turn it inside out so you have your nice side on the outside. And now, using the chains that we learned how to do earlier, we're going to practice making 40 chains, and this is going to be to make a nice little drawstring for our bag. And once we've done those 40 stitches, what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn, and to finish off this chain length to make our drawstring, what we're going to do is we will do a final yarn over and pull that through the loop before pulling on that string and tightening it. And how I'm going to attach these drawstrings is I'm going to insert my hook through just any random kind of like one of those donut holes that I was on about earlier, and then pull through one side, and then you want to mirror the exact same stitch on the other side, or at least so that to your eyes these kind of look symmetrical. And as I say, you want to pull the drawstring through with your hook, and once you've done that you can tie these together, and this is a perfect pouch for you to keep your hook in as well as your scissors, and you can use your like the surface of this as a way to store your needle. But apart from that, your bag is done, and you could use this for other things if you did not want to use this for your crochet utensils. I just think it's quite a cute little first project. I hope you did learn something about crocheting, and I hope you continue. I'm planning on doing a second lesson within the next few weeks, so if you're interested in that, please like, comment and subscribe. Check out my other social medias that will be in the description below. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you later. Goodbye.